Why don't you go to Central Illinois' leading online source for local news, Police Blotter, for the record information, obituaries, and more on your desktop, laptop, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWitt County's #1 source for local news is on the air and online 24 hours a day. The latest local news stories are heard every hour on Central Illinois' news station, the Big 1520 AM and 92.3 FM WHOW. Stream live at DeWittDailyNews.com. They're also heard every hour on the station that's your easy choice, 95.9 FM WEZC. And to read the latest local news on your electronic device, including tablets, iPhones, and smartphones, go to DeWittDailyNews.com. DeWitt County's #1 source for local news is on the air, online 24 hours a day.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, my guest on the phone here today. Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
For sure. You know what? I was thinking about this as we were getting ready this morning. It's just been so quiet lately. I really don't know what we're going to dive into this morning. I mean, I guess we could. I guess we could talk about the nice weather we've got this morning. It was a cool night last night. But no, in all seriousness, it was a wild week there for you from that Thursday before the 4th and even all the way through the 4th. I mean, we saw some rain on the 4th of July and a few days after that. So we got quite a bit of rain over a good week of time frame there, Ed. But let's recap June 29th. That was a wild day in Illinois, probably one of the more wild and widespread weather events we've seen. You know, we see these isolated incidents. You know, I think of Washington, Taylorville, you know, those types of events. We see those isolated over the course of several months, or, you know, they happen sporadically. But man, that derecho that rolled through, it was widespread, almost from top to bottom for the state of Illinois. What did we see that day?
Yeah, we had a storm. The complex actually developed just west of Illinois and southern Iowa, northern Missouri, and then it just kind of evolved. And as the cold air, the rushing out of the storm kind of became more organized, the whole line just bowed into a huge, you know, basically almost most of the state got a chunk of damaging wind there, especially across central Illinois. And some of the wind speeds measured were, you know, we had 109 measured, 101 measured, you know, and other estimates with the damage were up to, 120 mile an hour in some of the tornadoes. So it just, you know, basically derecho is have to have damage that's about 400 miles continuous damage and about 60 miles wide. And it checked that box by far. You know, it was a very impactful event across a large portion of Illinois.
No question. Where did we see the worst of it? You know, because I think like Wapella here in DeWitt County, I know they had a tornado. Yep. You know, and just the community itself just devastated by damage and such. Where did we see the worst of this in our area?
The strongest wind speeds were just south of Curan and Sangamon County, but across DeWitt County too. I mean, you had, you know, winds that were probably close to 100 miles an hour as well. I mean, there was not a wide separation between the damage. You know, you had basically an 80 to 100 mile an hour wind damage swath across just a large portion of the area. And, you know, some structural damage occurred to homes and a lot of tree and power line damage.
Yep. That's the case in our yard right now for sure. We're kind of dealing with that as we speak. But Ed, at any rate, derecho rolls through on the 29th, and you know, we like I mentioned to you off the air, we saw a good amount of rain on that particular day. I want to say Friday we even got some more rain showers. Might have been a thunderstorm if I'm remembering right. Let's take ourselves back to our last conversation. You were talking to me. This was something I don't think I've ever heard you say. You were saying you could have had one of the driest, if not the driest, June on record, if not for some rain. Well, Mother Nature made up for lost time those couple of days. How much did she make up for with the rain we got those 2 days? Where did we end up with June in terms of precipitation thanks to that derecho rain?
Yeah, it did help. We were still 2 3/4 inches below normal for the month. You know, so we ended up below normal, but yeah, it could have been much worse without that rain that came on the 29th and the 30th. There were about an inch and a third there just from that particular event.
Mm-hmm. Ed, how about just June or like the area in general, that derecho? How much did that help? Across the state. How are we looking for soil moisture and just rainfall for the summer? How about those couple of talking points?
Sure. Yeah. The drought has been helped a bit, and I'm seeing soil moisture conditions improving from near record low amounts of moisture at the 4-inch, 8-inch, and 20-inch to now they're up above the average. So they're above average slightly in Champaign, but even better in Springfield. Springfield's up in the middle 80 percentile, so it's definitely improved down in that area. So DeWitt County is right in the middle of that, but it's definitely drought conditions still persist. I mean, the monitor updated last week after a lot of that rain fell, and then DeWitt County is solidly in the moderate drought, which is D1 on the scale, so it's level 2 drought. And it's definitely dry, enough deep moisture that we got to be careful not to go back into our dry pattern. But it looks like we're going to be getting some rain coming up even this week here, and maybe even into the weekend. So,
that made me wonder, Ed, did we just get too much rain all at once? Was that the situation?
There was some runoff. Yeah, it didn't all soak in. It came so fast. I know at my house, I got 2 inches in 45 minutes. That's just too fast. It could not. The ground being so dry was kind of a crusty, very hard soil, and you need slower rains to really get the most benefit out of that rain, and some of it just came too fast. And even this past weekend or Friday, I believe, we had some rains that fell really fast across even DeWitt County, so upwards of 1.5 inches. Across the area. So when it falls too fast, it's unfortunate that we lose some of the benefit.
But if it's refilling those creeks and rivers and those kind of smaller waterways, is that a good thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because our waterways need that persistent reinvigoration of moisture, especially like a made waterway like the Illinois River. If it gets too low, it affects the economy, and that the barges can't be fully loaded. You can't keep the traffic flowing, and the economy kind of responds, and some of our major waterways anyway. But even filling up those side tributaries, it's a good thing.
Very good. Very good. Well, Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is our guest on the phone here for this morning. Ed, let's revisit June. So how about June? Let's talk temperatures before we get into some of the other things. How about temperatures for the month of June? What did we end up seeing?
We saw about a degree and a half below normal. So not too bad. The average temperature across the whole board was 70.8 or right around 71. So we didn't have, the typical big heat, several days of 90s. We had more, typical 80s, and then a few cool days in there. I know a couple of mornings it was in the 40s for morning lows. So you get throw in a few of those, and you're going to end up tipping the balance below normal for the month.
No question. When it comes to those cool days that we saw, Ed, were we approaching any days that were record-setting? I mean, any temperatures that were record-setting in any way?
Yeah, that when we had 48 for a morning low on the 17th, that one was close. I don't think we set any record cold, for that month, but still it was close. I mean, a couple of those mornings were definitely chilly.
That they were, no doubt about it. And so let's, we mentioned rain there, Ed. We talked about, replenishing some of that moisture we didn't get for the month. What did the averages tell us? What were we looking at for, kind of traditional June and what we got? How about that?
Sure. Yeah. Normally in June, the area gets about 4.16, just about 4 inches of rain. And what we ended up tallying across the area was about 1.44. So, and most of that fell the last 2 days of the month. Had we not gotten those last 2 days of the month, we would have probably been in the top 10 driest Junes on record. But that just kind of staved off some of the major pain that was potentially going to set up in a drought. So, but we're still, since April, we're still well behind. So we just got to hopefully get some replenishing rains here in the next week or two to continue that trend of getting the moisture back in the ground.
Yeah. What is going on, Ed, that we're really not experiencing that hot of a summer? We've seen really limited 90-degree days. It's been humid from time to time, but overall it's been a rather pleasant weather summer. What's going on here that we're not seeing this kind of dry heat, the heat of a traditional summer so far?
Yeah, we've been kind of staved off from the heat. Typically starts building in the plains in the Southwest U.S. and then it'll shift east in the July timeframe. And we've just had a storm track kind of set up finally to give us replenishing rains, and that's also kept the temperatures down. But there's going to be a period of time here that we're going to get into the dog days of summer, and that dome of heat that's built up in the plains is going to shift east. And typically we'll see, a week or a week and a half where some of that heat will just really build. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that. But right now that's held off. Sometimes in June that even moves in. So we've been lucky to not really get that painful heat yet anyway.
But that you kind of need that though, right? I mean, to make those crops grow and you kind of need that dry heat and that summer heat, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The plants definitely grow. You can watch them grow some days when the heat and moisture are really high. It's just, it is a needed portion of the growing pattern, and definitely, once that heat settles in and we can get enough moisture here to get those plants, maturing properly, it'll definitely help the plants getting some heat.
How about just the month of June in general, Ed? What did I miss? What stood out to you that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, I think we covered it. Yeah, the major dry trend was definitely scaring us a little bit, but nothing other than that. There wasn't anything significant other than a derecho.
That'll do it every time, right?
That'll do it every time. Yeah.
And it feels like it feels like just about every time we're talking about, we're making comments about driest on record or one of the driest on records. Like, it always feels like there's just that timely weather event that doesn't take us to that extreme bad end of things, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. Mother Nature tends to shift the balance just in time and give us, some needed moisture. And this was the case for sure this time.
Very good. Well, we've got a lot to dive into on the other side of the break here, Ed. Where do folks go for the latest in all things weather data?
Weather.gov/Lincoln.
And that is Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is our guest on the phone this morning. More to come with him on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. We start the day in the green with corn, beans, and wheat. July corn opening 563.5 up 3. September corn up 9 1/4, 496.5. And December new crop 502 3/4 up 8 1/4. July beans starting the day up 28, 1513.5. August beans up 30 1/4, 1458. And November new crop 1342 1/4 up 24 1/2. September wheat 658 1/4 up 8 3/4. December wheat up 8, 674 1/2. And March wheat 689, that's up 7. August bean oil 64.12 up $1.55. And August bean meal 410.50 up 7.70. Opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
Looking for a new Silverado? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. Yes, we finally have new Silverado inventory. We have Silverados in 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s with several trim levels. Custom, LT, RST, LTZ, and yes, high countries. This month, get an extra down payment assistance on all Silverados. Baum Chevrolet Buick. We have inventory. BaumChevyBuick.com. Right from the start.
Our new 19,000 square foot building at 205 East Washington Street across from Ace Hardware means bigger savings for you. Owner Dave Jackson here from your Clinton Save-A-Lot. With our new building comes bigger selection of meat, produce, dairy, and the items you buy every day at savings of up to 40% or more. Come and see what the buzz is all about by shopping our new location of your Clinton Save-A-Lot at 205 East Washington Street for even bigger savings every day. Hope to see you soon.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is our guest on the phone here for this morning. Ed, let's look to July. You mentioned we could see some rain to continue to try to replenish that lack of moisture. What's this week particularly have in store for us? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, we've got a storm system coming in Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. There's kind of a storm complex coming through, maybe a little severe weather there, but then late Wednesday evening looks like another really strong system, maybe some very heavy rain. We're in the slight risk, level 2 risk of severe weather on Wednesday afternoon, evening, but we're also looking at the potential of excessive rainfall and maybe some flooding across the area. We have enough surface moisture now that, possibly some of that could, cause some flooding problems on low-lying roads and areas that don't drain properly.
So keep that on. Keep the radar, I guess, heightened, if you will, going into Wednesday. Anything like what we saw? I mean, in terms of not necessarily a derecho, but I mean, how severe of activity are we thinking here, Ed?
Not quite to that level where you've got, widespread 80+ mile an hour winds. This one, we're going to see more scattered reports probably of that 60 to 65 mile an hour winds where some trees get knocked down and some power lines as well. But, nothing as widespread as that derecho now. Gotcha.
But still, still severe weather nonetheless coming in.
Right.
And that kind of speaks to, Ed, that kind of speaks to the point. You got to really, when those warnings and such come out, really keep your ear and your eye to the radio or whatever, you may be monitoring there, but also the eye to the sky. That storm last Thursday really blew in quickly and caught a lot of people off guard, it felt like. Right.
Yeah. If weather aware is kind of the way you got to look at each day, especially in the summer, and just go into our weather.gov/Lincoln. If there's a severe threat, we're going to have it highlighted in our weather story and just take a peek at that. And we'll have our timing slide in there. And if your county's in a certain range of time, just kind of, plan your day and say, hey, if I'm going to need to be outside or driving around, make sure I have a way to get that warning and make sure I can take some cover if need be really quickly because, trees into homes that can bust through the roof. If you're upstairs, you could get injured. You just never know. Always be ready and have a way to get those warnings and take action as quickly as possible.
Sure. Ed, how about, I was kind of caught off guard by those overnight storms. I don't know what that was, Thursday, maybe Friday night. I can't remember what night that was, but I was kind of caught off guard by those overnight storms we got a few nights ago. Anything overnight we're looking at here this week?
Nothing. Well, the Tuesday night, it'll be late night into Wednesday morning. There's just kind of one complex there. So that some of that might come in, as people are sleeping, which is, definitely a more vulnerable time. But that threat level is not as high as the ones Wednesday late afternoon, evening. That's the higher threat. But, anytime trees can fall down, you always want to make sure that you have a way to get those warnings just to make sure you're not upstairs and you're in your safe spot as soon as you can.
Sure. Well, Ed, let's look to the rest of July. What are we looking at here? I know you mentioned to me when we caught up last, wet start to July certainly has been the case. What's the rest of the month hold for us?
Well, 6 to 10 day outlook, which is the 15th through the 19th, shows below normal temperatures across Illinois, but some above normal precipitation signal there. Just like DeWitt County is the northern fringe of that above normal signal. The far northern third of Illinois is near normal or so. So there's just a pattern of potentially some rain coming through. We dipped down in the 8 to 14 day outlook to just near normal precipitation for the whole state, but temperatures start rising. We're showing a level 2 of above normal, 40th to 50th percentile there. The 3 to 4 week outlook tips back to like the 22nd of July into early August, higher signal of below normal temperatures, and then above normal precip again. So July may end up being an above normal precip month, which is something we really do need.
We do need it. It feels like we don't see that very often either.
Yeah, I know. July is definitely not an above normal precip month a lot of the time. But it doesn't look like we're going to get any major heat waves. Just I know in that 8 to 14 day outlook we show the above normal, but when the 3 to 4 week outlook shows the below normal, probably just going to get maybe a brief stint of some 90s, maybe some near 100 heating disease. But we'll have to take a look at see what that time frame is.
Well, and when do those come around, Ed?
The hot temperatures are the 17th to the 23rd is the 8 to 14 day outlook. And that was updated on the 9th. So, so that window right there, right in the middle of the month, potentially some heat coming in, and maybe a drier spell there for, 3 or 4 days, maybe 5.
Well, how about anything on July that's standing out to you, the outlooks or anything of that nature, Ed?
When the end of the month shows below normal temperatures, which we average in the mid 80s for highs and mid 60s for lows. So below normal doesn't mean like, excessively cold, but, there may be some more storm tracks coming in there is what that's telling me for the last week of the month into early August, based on the precipitation signal being above normal.
Sure. Let's dive into August and maybe even beyond that. What are we looking for here? What's the outlooks telling us?
Let's see. Yeah, the August outlook is above normal precipitation across central Illinois and equal chances of above or below normal temperatures. So, not maybe have a continuation of some of that rainfall potentially. Start tipping the balances towards a little reprieve from the drought, which is typically when we see the drought set up is August. So potentially, maybe get a little help in the moisture for the next month and a half.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It sounds like we're really going to have the opportunity to really break out of this drought in a big way, break it down and get out of it.
Yep, exactly.
How about September, October, Ed? What are we looking at for the fall?
Yeah, the outlooks, let's see, September, October, November, it says above normal temperatures and above normal precip. So, that's a good signal. At least, we hopefully won't have that typical late summer or drought setting in potentially here. So I'm feeling hopeful that the drought conditions we've got punched at us here in the April, May, and most of June timeframe will hopefully subside, and then we'll give those plants all the moisture they need.
What has happened here, Ed? We were not optimistic not that long ago that we were going to break out of this drought. What has happened here, weather-wise, whether it's atmosphere, whether it's transitions? What's happened here that we are all of a sudden very optimistic we're going to start seeing more rain?
Well, El Nino kind of swung into high gear here pretty quickly. It's shifting gears, so that affects the jet stream more in the winter than the summer, but it may have kind of held a little bit of low pressure in eastern Canada, where we're going to be seeing some of those storm tracks from the central Canada down through Illinois into the East Coast more frequently here in the last part of summer, potentially. So,
sure.
El Nino is still a little bit unknown in the summer in terms of how it affects us, but I think we may be seeing some of that jet stream respond to the ocean temperatures quickly changing, in the eastern Pacific.
Interesting stuff. Well, Ed, we could talk a little bit more, I'm sure, but I got to let you go for the day. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is our guest on the phone. Network news on the way on the WHOW Morning Show.